What's up, manifestation queens? This is your manifesty bestie. And you know what? The universe loves when we help each other out. So you've got to help a gal out. If you like my vibe, then please subscribe, rate, and review. But I'm not going to ask you to do this for nothing. No, I'm not. When you subscribe, you are going to do it manifestation style. You're going to subscribe and say, I am subscribing to my best life. And when you hit the 5 stars, say to yourself, 5-star life for me, because no manifestation queen wants a 4-star life. So thank you, queens. What's up, manifestation queens? I'm going to tell you a story. Okay, so you have listened to John Blakely, which is Sara Blakely's dad, on my podcast. And you might wonder, how did this Irish gal get John Blakely on her podcast? Well, I'm going to tell you how all this happened. And there is so much manifestation in this story, and it can apply to so many parts of your life. So listen up. So back in about October 2022, I think it was October 12th or 14th, I was in the hair salon, and Pause Penny, my brand, the manifestation and gratitude boxes, was about to launch. It actually launched the following month in the November. And I have always loved Sara Blakely. And the reason is because I've heard her story of building Spanx, but believing in manifestation and talking to the universe and the power of mindset and practicing gratitude. And I just loved that she was just so into manifestation, and she was a billionaire, and she talked about it, which for me made it easier for me to talk about manifestation being a lawyer, because, you know, lawyers are seen as stiff. And not only that, like, you have a reputation, and a lot of people think that manifestation is a load of hippy dippy woo woo sort of nonsense. So, you know, you need to be taken seriously. So she really gave me the courage, like, to believe in myself and to be my authentic self. Because I'm like, if Sara Blakely, a billionaire Spanx founder and now Sneaks founder, can talk about manifestation, well, so can I. So I went to the hairdressers, and I brought my manifestation box with me, and I brought the Spanx book. I pretty much bring that Spanx book everywhere, because if I'm ever in a moment of doubt in my life, what the hell am I doing? I'll open up the book and I'll read a page and I'll be like, okay, look, you've got this. And I had written down that I wanted Sara Blakely to get my products and what I was writing down for the business. And there was lots of different things. At this point now, remember, there was no podcast, because the podcast didn't actually come until August of 2023. So this was a couple of months, almost a year before. So step 1, like, what do you want for the business? Go global, have collaborations. Why? Step 2, why did I want it? It's like brand exposure, awareness, financial independence, inspire people. And then when I got to, like, what do you see? I see Sara Blakely with the product. I see other people. I'd written other names as well. What do you hear? I hear, I love your product. Can we get your product in our stores? Or I just manifested XYZ. How do you feel? You feel excited, joy, proud. What action are you going to take? So when it came to the Sara Blakely action point, right? Because I needed to reach out to her in order for something to happen. Because remember, manifestation is not just sitting on your ass and looking at a vision board. You actually have to do something about it. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try and connect with her on LinkedIn. So I tried that, and she didn't accept my request, which is totally normal. And then on Instagram, I was following her, and I DM'd her, and I got no responses back. So in the meantime, when you have something that you're manifesting that you think is so out of your control, it's so delusional. And by the way, someone did. I went to, I had an appointment recently, and I was telling the lady in the appointment that I was manifesting Sara Blakely on my podcast. And she looked at me and she was like, you know, that's totally delusional. And I was like, yeah, I know it's delusional. Thank you. That's what I say to people who say you're delusional. I say, thank you. Thank you. Because you know what? If you're not delulu, then you're not dreaming big enough. And I say that all the time. If you want to manifest your dream life, then what are you waiting for? Pause Penny has created an amazing manifestation box to help you manifest your dreams. It is backed by neuroscience. 7 simple steps, and the box tells you how to do it all. Grab your manifestation box at pausepenny.com and use the code podcast20 for 20% off. Be a little delulu. Aim high. And actually, Sarah's dad, John, I'm going to call him John in the episode instead of Sarah's dad the whole time, talked about aiming high, like a pole vaulter or a high jumper, that you should always be aiming high and not be afraid of failure, right? So then I thought, okay, like I've taken some action. I've tried to connect with her on Instagram. I've tried to connect with her on LinkedIn, and nothing's happening. So what are the other actions that I can take in order to make this delusional manifestation manifest? So I kept going with it, and I kept practicing my gratitude, saying my affirmations. I would say things to myself like Sara Blakely loves the manifestation box. I always say Oprah loves my gratitude box. And I'd say that every single day, and then I would visualize at night. I'd visualize, and I had a Pause Penny gratitude and manifestation box in the house with Sarah's name on it. And I'd look at that and I'd be like, that's going to Sara Blakely. That's going to Sara Blakely. And then what I would do is I'd put on my phone so when you set your alarm, this is a little tip for you to manifest. Before you go to bed at night, set your alarm and get your ass out of bed when you get up in the morning, right? Don't hit snooze, but label your alarm. So if you go into the alarm, you can label it. So you can label it, I am grateful, I am abundant. Today's going to be a great day. Great things happen to me. I am the luckiest person that I know. You can label it with whatever you want. I am abundant. I am a magnet for miracles. But the way I would label it, and I still do, is I'd label it, Sara Blakely is calling. So the alarm would go off in the morning and I would see this, Sara Blakely is calling, and it would just make me smile and make me laugh, right? And it would just be another way to send me on a high vibe. And the second thing I did was I chose a sign for Sara Blakely. One day I was like, what's my sign for Sara Blakely? And an owl came in my head. So I was like, okay, whenever I see a sign, an owl, I'm going to say, Sara Blakely is coming on the podcast. It's coming. It's going to happen soon. I know it. And along the way, when you're manifesting, you are going to start to see signs and synchronicities, right? Which I think anyway. So some of the reasons why I really thought this is going to happen with Sara Blakely is because she has 4 kids. So do I. She's 3 boys and a girl. So do I. She's a set of twin boys. So do I. And she talks to the universe. So do I. And I also have said before that I bought these 2 lovely shell ornaments for my Portuguese villa, which hasn't manifested yet, but it's going to happen. And then I saw in her stories recently that, not recently, like about a year ago, she had the exact same 2 by her bedside. And I was like, it's happening, it's happening. And you've got to remember, when you see things like this that seem like a coincidence, they're not. You have to tell yourself, it's happening. If anything, it might not be that close. You don't know. But at least tell yourself it's coming to raise that energy, the vibe, so it raises. And then recently I was following Sarah on something, and I saw something that she posted, and it gave me this idea. And I was like, hold on a second. Why don't I reach out to her dad? And her dad is a lawyer, because her dad's a lawyer and I'm a lawyer, and maybe he will respond to me, right? The lawyer and lawyer vibe. Who knows? Maybe he will. So, and this is what happens when you're manifesting. This is exactly what happens, and this is neuroscience, right? You write it down, you focus the brain, you start taking the action, you're practicing your gratitude, saying your affirmations, visualizing, and then all of a sudden, the brain seizes opportunities because you're so focused on it. The brain finds the opportunities for you, and then you seize them. So I'm going to reach out to him. So I reached out to him. and I got no response. But I actually reached out to him thinking that I wouldn't really necessarily get a response. I didn't think too much about it. Anyway, I said, look, I might as well be ballsy. Send him the message and see if he writes back. 1 week later, it's a Sunday. I'm in the house. I open up my Instagram and I get a message. And John says, send me your number and Sarah will call you. And I literally scream my lungs out. I'm like, oh my God. This I just couldn't believe it. And I go out to the garden. I'm telling my husband, he's like, Yvonne, when Sarah calls you, act like a normal person. I was like, no, I'm not going to act like a normal person when Sarah calls because it's Sara Blakely, remember? And if I could have anybody, my number one person on the podcast, it would be her, right? So I am going insane. I literally have my phone attached to my hip. It's attached to my hip. And of course, when you have things, this attachment to the outcome, it never happens. So she didn't call. So 1 week went by, 2 weeks went by, and she didn't call. And now I realized she was working on sneaks. So, and she's also busy and she gets these requests all the time, like John said. So I reached back out to John and I was like, I've been in the charts for the last few weeks. Would you consider coming on the podcast? And he said, let me think about it. And he came back and he said, okay, I'll come on. And I was like, yes, because he's the one that gave her the Wayne Dyer tapes when she was 16, how to be a no limit person. By the way, on the podcast, I called him Dwayne Dyer. It's Wayne Dyer. Oh my God. Anyway, how to be a no limit person. He's the one who talked about failure with her and her brother every night. By the way, he's 2 kids and both of them are successful. Sarah's billionaire and her brother is multimillionaire. He sold his company in 2019. So his parenting skills are great, right? So it was interesting to talk to him about parenting and mindset. And he even said something on the podcast like, my mindset is young. I just thought it was amazing. And he's talked about how important it is you're choosing your thoughts. And it reminded me how important it is the way we talk to our kids, whether it's our kids or kids in school, that we have such an impact on the way they see themselves and how successful they might be. But this is what happens when you're manifesting. Sometimes you're manifesting something and the universe doesn't give you exactly what you asked for. I asked for Sara Blakely to come on the podcast and I got John Blakely. But it's equally as amazing. It's like you're still overjoyed and happy with the result. Now, I still would like Sarah to come on, for sure. But it doesn't matter when, and it doesn't matter how. It really, really doesn't. And that's the thing. And I say the same thing when I was manifesting twins. I was like, I want twins, 2 boys at Christmas. And what did I get first? I got a boy. So I didn't get the twins until it was 7 years later. So sometimes when you're manifesting, you're not going to get exactly what you want, but you can get something that's equally as amazing. So as I was trying to get John on the podcast, we were over and back about the time for the podcast and then how he'd come on, which would be via Riverside. And he was telling me things like, okay, you're going to have to help me come on. I'm not, I've never done a podcast before. I'm not techie, all this stuff. And I was like, well, I'm not techie either. But so then I started to get this panic of okay, I'm going to send him a microphone because he didn't have a mic and the sound is better. So I'm very conscious of this. So I send him a microphone and I send him mic covers and then I start to panic and I'm like, oh my God, what if he doesn't come on? Even I did a solo episode and I was going to announce that he was coming on before he even came on. And I was like, I can't do it. I had this little bit of fear, and coming to the studio, I was like, something's going to happen. It's just not going to go right. And I just had this and what do you know? We were challenged. Couldn't get him on Riverside. And then I thought, Then we had to try a Zoom. Eventually the Zoom worked, and I really did think this wasn't going to work. But I 100% believe this. When you are manifesting your dream life, you are going to be challenged along the way. You are going to be challenged until the very end. And the universe is going to be like, well, do you really want it? Are you going to give up now? Or are you going to keep going? What is it? And I just knew that that was my challenge. I was like, no, I'm getting John on. I do not care. This is going to happen. Like, it's going to happen. And I mean, we had actually, in fact, right? So when I was messaging him, he sent me his cell number and he said to me, call me. It was during the week, right? And he was like, I'm traveling at the moment. So give me a call after 2 weeks or whatever. So I said to him, I'll call you on Friday, X date. And I'll give you a call on Friday, X date. And he said, okay. So then on the Thursday, on the way home for work, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try this telephone number just to make sure it works for tomorrow. And I dial the number and I get no answer. And I'm like, holy mother of God. It's like American, this is Verizon and this number is no longer in service. And I was like, holy shit. He's given me the wrong number, or I don't know. So I messaged my sister in the US and I'm like, Susan, call this number. It's John Blakely, and just see if it works from the US side. And she's like, I'm not calling that number. What if he answers? I'm like, who cares? If he answers, hang up. Just hang up the phone. She's like, he'll see my number. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just hang up. And she said to me something. She was like, you are so ballsy. Anyway, she didn't call him. But I was like, oh my God, this is the universe challenging me again. Challenging me again and seeing, am I going to give up? So I re-entered the number, and I obviously had dialed an incorrect number, and it went to voice message. And I said, hey, John, this is Yvonne, just confirming our call tomorrow, which I'm glad I did. And he wrote back and he said something along the lines, actually, I'm still traveling tomorrow. Can you call me over the weekend or on Monday? And I said, I won't disturb your weekend. I'll call you on Monday. So I call him on Monday and I get no answer. And I am like, oh, no. So I go into my pantry and I'm just like, Yvonne, let it go. So I was going to Kerry that week on the Wednesday, I think it was, for the bank holiday weekend, the August bank holiday weekend. And I was like, let it go. And once you let it go, you can call him in 1 week's time, but you need to just get it out of your mind, stop obsessing over it, and let it go. And the minute I left the pantry, I came in, I sat down in my office, and I got a text from him. And he was like, Yvonne, I'm so sorry. There's been like lightning or storms here, and my Wi-Fi totally cut out. I'll call you during the week. So I was like, yes. Just another example of when you genuinely let something go. And sometimes you actually need to take a break from what you're manifesting. Like, you're still like practicing your gratitude affirmations or whatever, but you just need to stop thinking about it and just almost say, okay, I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to think about it for a week. You almost need to give yourself space. And of course, then we're driving down to Kerry and I get a call. 4 kids in the back, screaming, crying, twins crying, kids talking, and John Blakely is on the phone. And I am like so excited, but also the noise is insane. So anyway, long story short, he agrees. He's agreeing to come on the podcast, and we're figuring out dates and times and all of that jazz. But this is what I would say. Remember, dream big. Be delusional. Stop giving a shit what other people think of you. Like, I put it out there. I told people I am manifesting Sara Blakely on the podcast. And this is what's happened. And how has it happened that I've managed to get her dad on the podcast? And it's by doing all these steps. And she will come on at some point. I believe that. But remember, you need to write down what you really, really want. You need to be focused and disciplined and consistent. Consistency is key. And manifestation is like starting, January 1, you decide, like, I'm going to start being fit and healthy. It takes time, commitment, going to the gym, choosing the right foods, drinking your water, making the right food choices, whatever it is, getting enough sleep. And manifestation is the same. It requires your time, commitment, energy, staying focused, staying consistent. And then you're going to have these dips and you're going to be low and you're going to be challenged. But you know it's going to happen for you. So there you go. I want you to make a promise to yourself that you are going to be delusional. Totally delusional. Bye, Manifestation Queens.